10 years come and go so fast, and might as well be dreaming. Sunny days are going to pass across another season. How do the flowers survive? 10 years come and go so fast.
10 years ago, this day, this event took place.
The winner
Have any drum roll here?
of the Avirate Miss Universe Sri Lanka 2011 is Stephanie Siriwardhana. Ladies and gentlemen, the new Miss Universe Sri Lanka.
There we have it. Our new Miss Universe Sri Lanka 2011, Stephanie Siriwardhana.
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause, please.
She's receiving the crown from Miss Shankar Madhuri Singer. A very lucky lady tonight.
And 10 years later, I have the pleasure of meeting her again, of course in the middle of a pandemic. But Steffi, welcome back, and let's celebrate despite the pandemic, your 10 years walk as Miss Sri Lanka 2011 to the best we can.
It's such an honor to be here, Chanakya. Like, I remember you were my first interview right after I won the pageant, and I cannot believe it's been a decade. And this is the second interview with you, so it's amazing.
Exactly,
I'm
it took
really
10 years to
happy.
come back
Yeah.
together. Steffi, did you ever think that you'll ever be in a pandemic situation like this 10 years after and talking to me in an interview like this? No, right? Right. So first, let me replay to you the first question you answered to me, the first question rather I asked from you and you answered. Let's see what that question was.
You know, there may be thousands or if not millions of girls in Sri Lanka to wanting to win what you have won now. Yes. In your opinion, what do you think it takes to win a pageant like this? Whether it's this Miss Universe Sri Lanka or another beauty pageant, which is taking you to the heights of the world.
I think
what do you think you had that others didn't?
So you had the question 10 years ago. What's the answer now?
Well, like anything in life, Chanakya, it doesn't need to just be for a beauty pageant, you know. I think anything that you achieve in life comes through hard work, dedication, but also it's very important, I would say, to be very passionate. You should know exactly why you're doing what you are doing, and when you have that clarity, the dedication and the commitment, all of that comes naturally because you know why you're doing it, you know. So I think that's really important, and you know, once you apply yourself with all those things, sky's the limit, right?
Okay, so now let's see, Steffi, what was your answer 10 years ago for the same question? Let's watch. Let's watch.
Well, I don't know if the others had it or not. I mean, I can't speak to them.
Yeah.
But I think the most important thing is dedication and determination. Because that's when you push yourself. Like, I pushed myself a lot. I worked as hard as possible to get to where I thought I needed to be in order to win. But you also have to take a step back and not get too involved in it, like so that it doesn't consume you, because then that energy could turn against you. So it's good to go with the flow, but also be extremely dedicated and to keep focused. So if this is really what you want to do, just be focused, be confident and very dedicated.
Oh, it's similar.
More or less, the answer is almost the same.
Yeah, I'm consistent.
You're going to be a trusted politician.
Oh gosh.
Because that's what we need. Anyway, now after winning Miss Sri Lanka 2011, when we did the first interview and all that, you haven't gone through, you haven't carried your crown literally, if I may to say, for a full year.
Yeah.
How was the, let me use the word, how was the weight of carrying that crown, that is that title, for a one full year? And what did you really have to do and what did you learn from it?
the crown was actually heavy, literally. But you know, the crown and the sash, you're representing 21 million people. Now 22. Back in the day it was 21. So it's a huge responsibility because it is through the arts and through pageants and you know, musical shows, and it's through the arts really that the rest of the world make their impression of Sri Lanka. So what I'm trying to say is, you see, when you go on to political forums and whatnot, people's hearts are somewhat hardened. But it is through avenues such as this, such as beauty pageants, such as music shows, that people are able to open their hearts and think, oh wow, that's country, that's Sri Lanka. And they will make a judgment on an entire country based on the person who's representing that country. So it was really, really heavy. But it was so humbling. I learned a lot, Chanakya. I mean, I grew a lot as an individual as well. But it was a really fun experience, and you know, I love my country, so it was such an honor for me.
Right. So there's a lot of things you did during that year. Your mandatory required to do. How was the experience? I know this question was asked.
Actually, there was no mandate.
There's no mandate.
No, which is why I actually thought there should be a mandate, and I offered to write up one at the time, because I think it's very important.
Yes.
If you do carry a title as a Miss, I think it's very important to find what area you are passionate about in terms of being socially responsible, and do projects towards that, because you're given this amazing platform and people want to hear what you have to say. People are interested to know your thoughts, and I think the reach you have is so big, you know, once you win a title like that. So it's important to have, you know, something that you can do. I mean, it can be either tied directly to the Miss Sri Lanka pageant, or it could be tweaked with every girl who wins the title according to her passions as well. I think that's very important.
Steffi, I remember you also participated in the World Economic Forums representing Sri Lanka, and I think you also participated in the bidding process of Commonwealth Games to Sri Lanka. Now, you represented Sri Lanka in these occasions. What was your message like, and what was your job like you had to do?
So yeah, the Commonwealth bid, I was invited to go because I had won the title. The World Economic Forum, I was invited because I am part of the Global Shapers, which is a group associated with the World Economic Forum. So it was the annual general meeting. And it was just amazing because over there you have all the top politicians, the top businessmen of the entire world. Like I was able to meet Bill Gates there, you know, I met Andrea Bocelli, who I love, fantastic singer. I met Weeraman. I met a whole bunch of people.
You met Weeraman?
Yes, I did.
Really?
He
That's
told
nice.
me I should open up a croissant shop, but inside the croissant to put curry instead of ham and cheese. So
British watching this interview is going to be jealous of you. Anyway,
no, anyway, so it was just so beautiful because I was able to see how people in that sphere with that sphere of influence, how they thought. And it was really interesting. It was, you know, the sessions were on mindfulness, on being socially responsible, on you know, making a difference with your life. It was really interesting, you know, about just being self-aware. And I think it ties back to the first question you asked me today as well as 10 years ago. How do you achieve what you want? And I think that's what all these top business people were saying. You know, you have to know why you're doing something and be aware, and then use that passion to implement stuff. But you need to be, you need to meditate. You need to be self-aware, I guess. And so for me, what I realized is I love my country. I love Sri Lanka. I up to date, you know, I wish everybody in the whole world, if you're watching this, whoever's watching who hasn't been to Sri Lanka, you have to come and see this beautiful island with so much potential, so much beauty. So yeah, I love the fact that I was given a chance to be an ambassador to Sri Lanka, and I love representing Sri Lanka.
Steffi, I have not seen you doing a carry on a job per se, but you became one of the most sought after MCs. You did soon after the Miss Sri Lanka, you did the reality shows, and you did a lot of MCing after that, and now you are a most sought after MC. So how did this all come about? Like, was it all accidental, or did you plan to becoming the most sought after MC, or was it something like that?
And I actually owe my hosting path, the career that I got in hosting, to Kili Maharaja, because what happened was we had a meeting, and so I remember talking. He's like, "What do you like to do? What are your interests?" And I was like, "Oh, I love to sing. I'm a dancer. I've hosted events because I was an activist in Canada. So a bunch of my friends and I used to organize speaker series with Nobel laureates and influential people, and." So then he's like, "You know what? We have a singing competition. Yes, Superstar Season 2. Why don't you host it? Have you ever been a compeer?" I was like, "No, I haven't." And so that's how my career started in that.
Steffi, now we discovered that you have a beautiful talent in singing. Other than that, now how did this also come about? And what are you doing with your singing?
I have to say, I was a bathroom singer, and I have to say thank you to my husband, Dushyanth. So he has pushed me so much. He's like my mother. I think both of them are my biggest cheerleaders and the biggest force I have behind me. And so Dushyanth heard me singing. He's like, "You know what? You need to sing. Come and audition for Phantom of the Opera." And so I did. I played the role of Christine. He played the role of Raoul. And so after I sang there, it was with the workshop players, people started calling me to sing at their events. And I remember when I first answered the calls, I would be like, they were, "Can you sing at our event?" I was like, "No, sorry, I don't sing like that." And then Dushyanth would take, "Yes, she sings." I was like, "Okay." So he used to come with me, do the sound check, wait with me the first few events because I was really nervous, right? And so then, a new avenue opened up. So I was hosting, singing, then dancing slowly. I've always been a dancer, but because of my social work, I am more of a very sensual dancer because I did Latin dancing, so bachata, merengue, not merengue so much, but salsa, very, very zouk, very sensual kind of dancing. So because I work with sexually abused young girls and, in that sphere, I felt like I had to hold on that for a while until people could, the dynamic in Sri Lanka has changed over the past 10 years, Chanakya. Before we were not even able to talk about sex, talk about condoms, talk about all of that stuff because I used to organize events. Now people can understand that you can be multifaceted, that you can work in this and, still dance that way. Or at that time I felt I wasn't sure that I felt like people wouldn't have understood that I could be so passionate about that and still dance the way I do. But I think now we have all evolved. I have also evolved to a point where I'm like, okay, I can do this. I think people know who I am, and I hope they do. And I also was a little liberated.
Steffi, just to pick on what you said about these working with sexually abused children. As you know, at the time we are recording this, there's a major issue about an underage girl being sexually abused and all that. In your research and in your work, in this part of the world, if I may say, what did you find? Why do you found? What was if I may say, the root cause for these things, and what can be done for correction?
Well, Chanakya, I work with amazing organizations. One of them is Emerge. I've been working with them for 9 years now. So I started working with them, I think, a year after I won Miss Sri Lanka. They do some amazing work. They have a transitional home where they, help the girls to reintegrate back into society. I've given this a lot of thought. I really believe that in Sri Lanka there's a tug of war between being cultural and being conservative and being, I would say, aware and not. But there's a lot of sexual frustration here because we don't talk about sex. It's not normalized. So,
Is it because we don't have sex education as well? Can we say
well,
that?
technically you have in the program sexual education is there. The sex ed class is there. It's just not implemented correctly. You see, teachers are shy to talk about it, and that's because we are a conservative cultural society, like country. So we shy away from that topic. Or you get a day off when that class is supposed to be taught. But you see, sex is the most important part of the human existence, right? Because that's how you procreate and humanity goes on. So it's so important for us to find a balance between and realize that just because we talk about sex and we educate ourselves and we normalize it a bit, that we are still conservative in the way we would act and behave, but we are not sacrificing our knowledge for that. So obviously this sexual frustration
Is it a South
what-
Asian thing, if I'm interrupting?
Yeah.
If it is a South Asian thing,
So I guess we in the South Asian context, we have similar values and our cultures are similar. So yes, I do believe that it's the similar issues that are just kind of like a blanket issue that we have in this region, where we haven't found that correct balance. I mean, it's because of frustration, right? Like if I tell you right now, whatever you do, Chanakya, do not turn behind. What are you going to do? You're so tempted to just be like, okay, what's that? So when you say no, sex, don't talk about it or this or that, I mean you're curious and your hormones are raging when you're a teenager, and then especially once you grow up and you're older, boundaries need to be taught. So what we've noticed is that a lot of girls, I mean of course boys too. I haven't worked a lot with the boys. I work mostly with the girls. It's mostly a family member and when it happens in the outskirts of Colombo, sometimes the girls are so innocent, they don't even know what has happened to them. So some of the girls in shelters, they're pregnant, right? And they don't know why their stomach is growing. So it's really important to educate them and to also educate on values and principles, because that's how you have prevention, right? You need to teach boys how to talk to girls. And you have boys' schools and girls' schools. So sometimes when they see each other for the first time, so here you have like all boys' schools and all girls' schools. And sometimes they don't know how to interact with each other when they see each other. So it's important that I'm personally for the co-ed system. I mean, that's how I went to school, and I have 3 brothers, so they know about periods, they know about, it's normal. And not everybody has a sister to grow up with, or a sister doesn't have brothers, sometimes they're an only child, or, so it's important that we also teach values of, okay, this is how you treat a boy, this is how you treat a girl, this is what normally happens, to just arm people with knowledge and understanding. And once you teach children from a young age, it's like saying please and thank you. You say, okay, this is a good touch, this is a bad touch. It becomes as normal as please and thank you. It's so internalized, and then I think that's the way forward towards preventing this from happening, to just kind of normalize it a little bit and talk about it, which right now is amazing. There's a lot more dialogue. So it was, I think I saw the change. Remember when there was that huge, I think it was in Delhi, this girl who was raped in the bus.
medical students raped by 15 people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was really traumatizing, and I noticed that's when the media in Sri Lanka as well started opening up and talking about it, and that's why the media plays such a huge role, because the media opens the dialogue and then it makes people aware that this situation exists. So many people in Colombo who I speak to get funding, when I tell them that these issues exist, sometimes they're like, what, in Sri Lanka we have problems like this? We never knew. So that's where, there's a huge formula that has to go in place for us to prevent some of these issues from happening.
Yeah, we mentioned about your husband in the previous answers you mentioned, but this question has been asked several times, but your marriage,
Yes.
wow, it happened, you took the wedding out of country and all that, we
Yeah.
talk about that, but how did this marriage happen? How did Dushyanth come into your life? Or put it better, how did Dushyanth come into your life?
Yeah, how did he come into my life?
He's such a wonderful man. We met at a concert, and he was really different. He's very shy. And I remember at that time, I had just flown in from an event in India, and I was, you know how girls are sometimes. They're like, I was telling Maria, oh my god, I ate too much, I put on weight. And she's like, no, you look great, you don't need to lose any weight. And then I was like, no, I do. And then Dushyanth was beside us, and I hadn't even met him, you know, or spoken to him yet. And then she was like, come on Dushyanth, tell her she doesn't need to lose any weight. And then he looks at me, he goes, no, you can afford to lose a little weight. And I was like, who is this guy? How dare he say this to me? And then I was very curious because he was very different to anyone else I had ever met. And in fact, he has one of the most beautiful hearts. He's taught me so much Chanakya. He's such a wise man. I respect him, and I'm so grateful that he's in my life. I think he's my best friend. He's my best friend, he's my sounding board, he's my business partner, like we work together, he's my partner.
Sound engineer, recording engineer, everything.
He's everything.
Steffi, your marriage was one of the most outstanding talked after marriages in Sri Lanka, and you had the wedding in the same place where your mother got married 30 years ago, that is in Italy. Tell me how did this marriage come about, and how did this whole wedding take place in Italy?
So I always wanted to get married in one of two places, either Independence Square, because I love that place. It's my thinking spot. Or Italy, in the same church my mom and dad got married in. And so Dushyanth was like, we're never getting Independence Square, let's go to Italy. And also Italy was beautiful because, like you know, I considered becoming a nun at one point. So I was very close to the sisters in the convent beside the church we got married in. And my aunt is a nun there as well. So for me, it just all worked out perfectly. And it was so beautiful. There was very few people, but all people we cared about, and coming from all over. It was just such a nice, central, beautiful, remote, magical place. It was a lovely wedding.
Okay, we're going to take a break now, but when we come back, we'll talk more to Stephanie as to see how she's working out this marriage, and we'll also talk to her about her spiritual life and lots more. That's when we come back on this special 10 years after crowning.
10 years come and go so fast, and might as well be dreaming. Sunny days are going to pass across another season. How do the flowers survive? 10 years come and go so fast.
Welcome back to 10 years after crowning with Stephanie Siriwardhana. Stephanie, you said about a beautiful marriage. You went to Sri Lanka. Now in Sri Lanka also, and like many countries, nowadays you get the divorce certificate before the ink in the marriage certificate gets dry. Right? That happens with a lot of marriages. Give the viewers some secrets as to how you maintain, how you go through your marriage so successfully. And
I have to stop you there when you say it's very successful. Every marriage has its trials and tribulations. That's what I've noticed. And I know you said that the divorce rates are now high, but I think it's also because people no longer see. I saw this beautiful thing on Instagram where back in the day when something was broken, like your radio or something in your house was broken, you fix it. Whilst now we just throw it away and we buy a new radio.
Right.
So I think that we also living in a day and age where everything is really fast. So I think all of us are victims to this. I mean, not victims, we're conscious of it, of course, but I think our patience or tolerance is a little less because we live in such a fast-paced environment. So I think the tendency is like, okay, this is not working, I'm not going to settle, let's move on to the next thing, So I mean, you can't judge that. Everybody has their own story. Dushyanth and I, oh my God, we have our problems.
Everyone,
yeah. But you know, it's just communication. That's key. Respect, understanding each other, and really being honest, no matter what. Just to be honest about where you're at and how you feel, and being vulnerable. Sometimes our egos get involved, so it's really important, you know, that you don't make, you know, the marriage about your egos, because then you'll never succeed.
Is the dedication to be wanting to stay in marriage?
Of course, there is that. But then you never know. Life happens too, right? You know, there are always wild cards that happen, and I think you just have to have faith in God and know that there is a plan for you. And I'm a person who believes everything happens for a reason, and everything will happen the way it is meant to happen. So whether you're together, you're divorced, you're in the place that you were meant to be at this exact moment. So don't ever stress, and I don't believe in worrying too much. Well, I try not to. But yeah, just be friends.
If you can recall a couple of years ago, I think it's just soon before you got married, you wrote a letter or email to your then pastor or somebody in the church who introduced you. And one of the things you had said, which the pastor reiterated, is that you had wanted to be a nun when you were young.
Yes.
Right? Why do you want to be that?
Because I love God. I mean, I love God, and I talk to God every day, and my religion and my spirituality has a huge impact in everything I do. And before I go on stage, Chanakya, every single event, whether it's singing, dancing, hosting, whatever, you know, I say a prayer, and then I tell God, because I get nervous, you know, like I'm human. and so I say, God, I know you love me so much. Let me shine in your light. Because all of my talents came from Him, right? He gave me these talents. So, and I tell Him to help me showcase what He gave me to the world. And I remind myself, it's okay to screw up. It's okay to make mistakes. Because, see, that's how beautiful God is. You are so special that even if you were the only human being in this entire planet, He would still send His only Son to come and die for you. And that's how special you are. So no matter how bad you screw up, He will love you unconditionally. And that's the most important thing. So, you know, then I don't worry if I screw up in front of all these people, it's okay. God still loves me. I am still special and important to Him. So it's very important for me. Like I love God, but then I also love boys. So that's why I decided I can't be a nun.
That's nice. So, taking this again, but that's very well said, very truthfully said. You are on a spiritual path, believing in a deity that's Almighty God,
Yes.
right? But your husband is not the same religion.
He's Buddhist.
He's a Buddhist. Are there clashes, or how do you sync your parallel spiritual paths? You know.
So Chanakya, I come from a family where my dad is Buddhist, my mom is Christian, my grandmother is Druze, I have 2 Muslim uncles, I had a pagan uncle. So at the end of the day, I mean, I was very confused at one point growing up, and I studied theology and religion just to educate myself, because I thought I could make an educated choice, you know, even though I was baptized as a child. So I studied, you know, Judaism, I studied Islam. I didn't study Buddhism too much because my grandmother kept trying to force me to it. So I naturally kind of was like, okay, I'm not going to study Buddhism right now. And then now I have learned it from Dushyanth, you know, and if you look at it, all the religions say the same thing. Be a good human being, do not kill, you know. It's teaching you how to love others. So I don't think there's a big clash, and especially with Buddhism. I think Buddhism and Christianity go perfectly hand in hand. I have learned so much from, Dushyanth and I, like, we have conversations at about 2-3 in the morning about, okay, is Buddhism the core, is love the core of Buddhism as well? You know, so we have these amazing conversations, and I find that Buddhism gives you a really nice way to live your day-to-day life. I mean, it teaches you that. I've learned so much, you know, that middle path, and, you know, to be aware in the moment. There's so many beautiful things that Dushyanth has taught me by teaching me Buddhism, by talking about Buddhism, by the way he lives his life. And I think it matches perfectly with Christianity. I mean, of course, I still pray that, that he also, actually we have a wonderful understanding. But there's a funny story. Can I share it?
Yes.
Okay, so before we got married, when we went to organize the wedding, sometimes you get nervous before getting married, right? I mean, I know I was. And so we went to the Vatican. And then I was there praying. So I went on my knees and I was like, dear God. Because Dushyanth and I, we're both type A people and we're both hot-tempered. So sometimes we have wonderful arguments, So then, but we love each other so much. So I was like, God, please give me a sign that he is the one for me. And I'm praying with all my heart. And then I opened my eyes and Dushyanth's beside me. And then I'm like, so what did you pray for, darling? He's like, oh, I don't know how to pray. Because Buddhists don't pray, right? And then he's like, but you really believe this story, huh? And I was like, what? And I was like, this story? I was like, God, is this the sign that he's not meant for me? Do I need to break up with him right now? And I started crying in the middle of the Vatican, thinking, okay, wow, I love him, but is this the sign? And then he was like, no, what I meant was, see, at the end of the day, Buddhism and Christianity, we're getting to the same end. We to heaven and Buddhists out of the cycle of samsara, which is peace, right? It's just we're going on two diverging paths to come towards the same area when you talk about how you live your day-to-day lives and where you're headed. So I think when you take a step back from what institutions tell us is right or wrong, there is religion and then there's the institution, like, okay, say 10 Hail Marys and your sins are forgiven. And, I'm not so much, as much as I almost became a nun, I don't believe in the rituals or the...
Religious rituals.
Not the, I'm looking for the right word. The habits we do, there's a word for it, it's not coming to mind.
Habitual?
No, not habitual. Oh my God, Chanakya, what's the word? The rituals?
Religious rituals, we call it religious rituals.
Yeah, okay, let's go with rituals, even though that's not the word. That's not the essence of it, right? Just going to church on every Sunday, that's not what's important. What's important is praying to God. Whether it's in church or right now while I'm having this tea, or whether, while I am, cooking, I'm thinking about God, I'm reflecting on that. That's what matters. It's not whether you go, it's beautiful to go to church because the feeling is amazing, but it's not important in your conversation with Him. So that's what I mean. And what I've noticed is, when it comes to Dushyanth and I, it's a beautiful learning from each other. And I think religions shouldn't be a reason why people clash so much. Because I know people who don't get married because of the religious issues, And I think at the end of the day, if it's genuine love, these religions teach you the same thing. It shouldn't be dividing us. If anything, it should bring us so much closer together.
Steffi, now we are going to play for you the question that was asked from you at the Miss Sri Lanka for Miss Universe 2011 contest, right? There was a question everybody was asked. Now let's see what that question is.
Okay. You're going to have to help me with this, Imani.
What is the question?
That's the question.
Shall I read it out? The question is, do you think that the youth today faces more pressure than the previous generation?
I think...
Short answer.
Steph, you talked too much. I think every generation goes through their own pressures. I definitely think youth have a lot more pressure now because we're in a very competitive, fast-paced world, Chanakya. And especially with the pandemic that we're going through, things are changing so fast that this our normal has changed, you know. But that being said, I think the youth also have a really wonderful opportunity now to reinvent themselves, to, you know, create new structures to live by. And also I think now the youth are a lot more, I don't want to say educated, but I think they're a lot more aware. If you look at the youth now, they're standing for sustainability, looking after the environment, you know, they're so much more socially involved and so much more socially responsible. And they've added that onto their plate, on top of finding a job, on top of finding a partner, on top of, you know, graduating, you know, with high honors or whatnot. So yeah, they have a lot on their plate. But I also think and that's what evolution will say, right? Like we always get better. And I think our the youth's way of handling things also has improved. So yeah, they have their own pressures. But I know we're headed in the right direction. And I think like always, youth are the future. They're the future leaders of tomorrow. And they will, you know, they'll do a good job.
Now let's watch your answer.
Oh my God,
10 years ago.
I'm sure I did better 10 years ago.
Let's watch your answer 10 years ago.
Yes.
Aibowan, Subasandava Kopasamata. Good evening, dear judges, ladies and gentlemen, and of course, my fellow Sri Lankans. I believe the answer to your question is yes. Today we live in an extremely fast-paced world, and technology and the world is evolving as we speak. So youth have a very hard time, and they have to keep up. They have to work extremely hard in order to keep up and catch up with the ever-evolving world. And also nowadays, in order to succeed, there's a lot of hard work and a proper education system that they have to follow in order to truly succeed in this world. So I believe the answer is yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
That answer wasn't good enough for you. Today's answer was better. Rapid fire. I want answers in one sentence max.
Okay.
But possibly few words.
Okay.
Your biggest dream?
To make as many people smile as I possibly can before I die.
And one last thing you want to do before you die?
Eat as much good food as I can while I can from around the world.
Something you can't get enough of?
People. I love human beings. I love interacting. I love hearing people's stories. I love people.
A person whom you would never want to be stuck with in an island or even in an elevator?
I cannot answer that question.
No? So many people.
No. There's only one.
Okay. A dream place you won't want to retire?
Somewhere by the beach.
Sri Lanka?
Yeah.
3 words that describes you.
Awkward, curious, insatiable.
Cheesiest pickup line used on you.
Used on me. People don't pick me up, Chanakya. I've
Really?
never had, no, people don't hit on me.
Really?
Like even when I was single, like I remember being so frustrated thinking, oh my God, people don't ever want to take me on a date. So I went to Canada. I was like, at least the boys there will ask me out for coffee. No one asked me out here.
So no pickup lines on you.
No.
The biggest sacrifice you ever had to do in life?
Well, you see, the thing is, I don't think anything I've done was really a sacrifice per se because I did it out of love. So when you do something out of love, it doesn't feel so sacrificial.
One advice you would give the girls who want to compete to win the title you won 10 years ago?
Be yourself. I'm telling you 1000%. There's only one you, and I keep saying this all the time. There's only one you in this entire universe. So own it. And that's your unique selling point, being you. And when you are true to yourself and you actually just resonate at newness and it comes out of you, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you cannot do. You'll conquer the world. Just be confident in who you are and be truthful to who you are.
Thank you. Stephanie, thank you very much for joining this chat after 10 years. The title, 10 years after crowning. And it was lovely to talk to you with all your detailed thoughts and everything.
Very
right?
detailed.
And yes, that's it. Thanks. We'll probably meet each other
10 years from now?
before 10 years.
Oh, okay. I thought we had a pattern, Chanakya.
Yes. Thank you for joining us and thanks again.
Thank you for having me, Chanakya.
Okay, so today we had this catch up with Stephanie Siriwardhana, 10 years after crowning at the Rosmith by Lanka, the #1 boutique hotel in Sri Lanka. You can't miss it if you are in Colombo. It's situated in Rosmith Place in Colombo. And Steffi, the management of the Rosmith by Lanka, which is run by the Sri Lanka group, Jeff Gunawardena, would like to give you a token of gratitude for coming for this, and let me invite him now.
Hi, Stephanie. So good to see you.
So good to see you.
Once again.
Once again. So nice.
Congratulations, and hope and pray we'll see you in the next year in a very high level.
Thank you so much. It really means a lot.
And really, we are there to support you. Please. And this is a small token to you from Lanka Group. Is from Rosmith Place by Lanka.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much
Thank you for
having
having
this year
us.
at Rosmith Place.
Thank you for the
at
tea, like 2 teas, and all the food you gave us for feeding me. Thank you.
And we have something for you also.
All right. Thank you very much.
Small gift for you.
Thank you
from
very
us.
much.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Good to
Thank
see you again.
Lovely to see you.
And that's it on this special interview. I'll see you when I see you. Goodbye.
10 years come and go so fast, and might as well be dreaming. Sunny days are going to pass across another season. How do the fowlers survive? 10 years come and go so fast,